Hey everybody, this is Quinn. Welcome to Style Versus, the new video series from Style Speaks. And what we're going to be talking about in the video series is interviews, perspectives, mindset, and we're going to a video format so you can see who's the person behind the microphone. And today, for our first episode, I have the amazing, the incredible, amazing father, best chef that I know personally, overall amazing human being, the one, the only Nad Pitt. Nad Pitt, how you feeling today, brother?
I'm feeling great. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. I'm feeling like how the sun was out today. I'm feeling bright. I'm feeling shiny. I'm feeling aligned. Even in the midst of obstacles that may make themselves present, I'm feeling great. I'm too lit.
And that's a great way to start off and just letting know people, even though you have adversities, even though you're feeling could be feeling a little strange. Hey, it's a sunny day, it's a bright day. It's always a new day. It's another thing we want to add in there as well. So I just kind of want to jump into it. I've known Nad for probably going on 4 years now. I've seen him evolve as an artist, as a man as well. And I think the big thing that really attracted me to Nad was his peace, his serenity. He's always even from the beginning, he's a family man. And you don't really meet much men in their early 20s or so as someone who celebrates family. They love their family, very incorporative. So, Nat, can you talk about your early family life and how did you become the family man you are today?
To be honest, my perspectives on family stemmed from being very young. I was like 5, 6 years old, and I remember getting on my knees and praying. I grew up in a super Catholic household and transitioned into Baptist. I was like, God, when I'm an adult, a dad, I just want to have a happy family. And, that prayer manifested into my 20s. And fatherhood, I can understand how some fathers walk a different path than a lot of the fathers that I know, like a father like myself. Because the Western world can be very stressful. Sometimes it's easier for you to run away and to emulate what you grew up watching. But for me, I wanted to be very separate from what I was superimposed to as a child. So putting the family first, I even considered putting my music, I considered selling my equipment at one point in time, even after like the success I had already garnered. And then sure enough, the powers that be showed me that music is my thing, not to sell my equipment. As soon as I put my stuff on OfferUp, I got a phone call from Roy's lawyer. His attorney was like, "Hey, am I speaking to Nad Pitt?" I'm like, yeah, we're just calling you to let you know that you made it onto the album. We just wanted to make sure, you're okay with your voice being featured on the new Strawberry Moon album. And if so, we'll send you over a contract. I was like,
nice.
Music is my thing. Because here I am challenging my purpose, and in reflection, here's my purpose bouncing back and affirming that I do have a gift to share with the world.
That's amazing. And even that perspective of you got that phone call, you posted stuff for sale, like, man, this is it for me. But then the affirmation came back, you're not about to do that today, bro.
At all. And ever since then, I never thought about hanging it up. So things are up. And
I love you said that last part, because I know a lot of people, they get to our end pass somewhere and like, no, I might have to quit. This is not for me. But just you really realizing that, no, this is for me. I was affirmed that I got to keep going. And even the music, let's talk about the music a little bit. What would you say your genre is, and what kind of message you want to spread to people through your music?
I really enjoy the effect that clergy music has on the people of the clergy. But what I recognize is that today more than ever, we have varying different beliefs and religious philosophies abound. And I'm a firm believer that in the Bible, I think it was in the talk of the Tower of Babel, where there was so much sin that God just split everybody up across the world and gave them different tongues. That every major religion, major arcana of belief, there's a specific truth in there. We have to unify those truths. We don't have these big nations like Judaism and Christianity and Buddhism. It's not to be separate, but it's to form a whole conglomerate. So I find that in my music, it feels good to put out that message super subconsciously, so that on a super conscious level, when people vibe to it, that's at the forefront of their thinking. You know, there's a lot of music that's out, that's commercial grade right now, that isn't promoting anything but vanity and lust
Yeah.
and flexing. So I make affirmation music in the same shadow realm. My music comes from the same beats, the same mixing, if not better, but with a more prolific message. So whether it's talking about fungi, psychedelic fungi, and how it can be uplifting, and ending the track with like a message to have children, or being like aggressive, like very like in your face. You can be aggressive and angry and still have a positive message. So I'm everywhere, just like the religions are everywhere, because you have to have a piece for everybody. But the common consensus is being very transparent and using my vessel and what I channel. Nothing's written, everything's freestyled. Using my channel as a way to connect with the people. So eventually, when I have millions and millions of listeners, and we're like together at a festival, we can really make some big manifestations come into fruition because we're all on the same accord. So I make crystal music because we resonate.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. And just to even go back a little bit, festivals and people resonating with the music, that's a big deal. I know Coachella's recently passed, and it's kind of just mainstream stuff, but just seeing people willing to go out in the middle of kind of almost nowhere to go see their favorite artists, now I really respect that, and I definitely see that come from the future because your music is uplifting. It puts you through a range of emotions that I realized, and I love the part about the transparency as well, because transparency is the best way to be honest, honestly. And I remember for me going through my journey of learning transparency, and not even that, but evolving to vulnerability. It's a whole new different kind of feeling. And being an artist, it's the most vulnerable thing you could just about do, because you're putting yourself out there, and you may or may not get good feedback. And that's sometimes that might suck, but you kind of make the good with the bad. And talk about crystal music, and we're also going to get into a little bit of numerology. The track 222 or 22 Lit on that recent album, amazing album, stream that by the way, next single plug it. And let's just talk about that track. Would you get the influence or the perspective to create that track?
Well, ever since my senior year in college, I started paying attention to like the numbers that would follow me, and I didn't try to put any importance onto it. It just felt like a good invisible nudge that I was going in the right direction. As of late, I've been seeing 444 like and 369s like crazy, but still, I don't try to put an importance on what the numbers are communicating. I just use it as like a benevolent sign, as you're on the right track, keep going. 222 Lit. Around that time, Future was still like on every single radio station religiously, and you know, a phrase that was often used in like commercial music was like "I'm lit," but like that lit was like "I'm lit, I'm upset," or like "I'm lit on like these drugs that are not good for me." So I was like, you know, in those years, there was a lot of anger behind the music because I was involved in the industry to a certain capacity, and I was making great music. I got signed to a micro label that worked with some big heads up in New York. I'm talking like Grammy nominations, people getting placements with Travis Scott, stuff like that, Bryson Tiller. So it was a great opportunity. But what happened was they saw Fresh Meat. I had a community on SoundCloud. And thereafter, like I made all that music in college when I was still in the midst of a sinful environment, for lack of better words, and like embracing my own awakening here in South Florida. When I moved back down from the University of Florida, my music started to blossom in a very different way. It was more positive. It was for our community. And the label didn't like that. You know, it was amazing music. Everybody who came to the studio was just like jamming out. It was my first time experiencing making music and having everybody, including the engineer, just dance and be like, yo, this is lit. But it wasn't marketable because this was in 2018. No, like musicians weren't talking about karma. Like you hear a Bia track and she's talking about auras and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And toxicity. I was in my time present, but I was ahead of their time. Because to go from a transition from what they were on to like what we're on, it would be too much of a contrast, and you would see that stuff that Ye talks about with the forced programming of certain concepts in music. How like like there's certain contrasts saying you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that. So 222 Lit was like a manifestation of the anger I had from making all this beautiful music with the micro label, getting dropped, not getting reimbursed. Like I said, I would get reimbursed. Ooh. And then having a big block on some amazing music, what I thought was the best music I had made at the time.
Wow.
So I had to, a big theme in my life is where I think I've made my best, and then it gets taken away. So I have to like come back and go harder. So that was what 222 Lit was. It was my first time getting really aggressive on the track, and I was just in front of the studio listening to the beat. 555 Hotline from Atlanta, Georgia produced it. It was hard hitting. I was like, yo, this is hard. I am too lit. I am too lit. Yay. And then everything just kept flowing in. I am too lit for the lies. I'm too lit for the bad guys, the guys in the skies, the chemtrails in the sky. Like, I wanted to put out my philosophies in a very attractive, fun, jubilant, but still in your face and aggressive way. So 222 Lit, man. When you see numbers, you're on the right path. So 222 Lit is the second track on the album, and I put that there for the person who doesn't know Nad Pitt, who just stumbles across it, and it happens to be 222, you know, so that they can resonate with the message however they see fit.
Wow, I love that story. And like you said, the whole thing was it was compacted into an actual expression of what you experienced, how it made you feel, and that track was birthed for that. And a lot of times, so that's almost like manifestation to an extent. Like you get, like, dang, I want to be able to do something like this, but then you get these blockages, and you get doubtful. But you know what? And then all of a sudden, it just works out. It's like the river flows down, and everything comes to fruition. I would say that's one of my favorite songs on the track. Trip is another favorite song from on the track is me as well. Also Pyramids. Believe it. I think I made it.
I know I can.
I know I can.
Believe in yourself.
That should be everyone. That should be the summer anthem, honestly.
It's a positive record. It's a very positive record. Somebody who does music for the church actually produced that record.
Wow.
Somebody who's really in their faith, made that record for me. He was so surprised when I gave him the track back. He's like, sometimes when you're making stuff, you don't think it's good enough for other artists to be on. I'm like, nah, this is. You can feel the happiness. You can feel the bliss in the production.
That amazing track. Like I believe, like I said, that should be the summer anthem. Because I believe the more people that believe in themselves, I think they can change the world. I believe they could change the world. So I want to fast forward a little bit, or kind of go a little bit here. But let's talk about like even you started your family, having a daughter. Like how did that change your perspective from being like being regular Nad Pitt to now being someone that they brought life in the world, and you have to teach. You're now a new level teacher. Like how's that transition been?
It definitely changed time for me. Before fatherhood, I was kind of just waiting for this blessing to come in, that blessing, this opportunity. And now it's like, now that I'm a dad, and I have to spend my time bettering myself, supporting her mother, supporting her, becoming a broader family man. Everything I do is like, it's way more intentional. If like my energy was like this, now it's like chiseled.
Wow.
It's like a sculpted crystal. And I have less room for imperfection that doesn't fall into alignment with my destiny. So if there's folks that don't resonate, then they have to be expunged and saged away, because I don't have like all this space for greatness inside of my life now. It's only meant for the righteous.
Yeah.
So I have to make sure that my brotherhood, my sisterhood, what's in my mind, what I'm watching on the phone, what I'm watching on TV is in alignment with my highest self. Because that's the only version of myself I want to give to my daughter.
Yeah.
So it's also forced me to, in a very empowering way, to be able to take the brunt of not so supportive, negative talk. Like, there's a lot of emotions that surround the child. that come from many different avenues. So I've had to discipline my emotional control because a lot of times when the whole world is in turmoil, everybody points the finger at the masculine figure in the equation instead of pointing inward or at the truth. It's just easy to put it on the guy, especially if the guy's a nice guy. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of discipline, a lot more new self-awareness, healthier habits, stronger, better music, better food. Everything's good. Everything's good.
I love that. That's that parallel, how you went from kind of waiting the wings to more strategic, more aligned. That alignment brought you in really nice. And I've always heard like different fathers mention that, no, well, when you get a child, you know, your whole life changes. And sometimes I'm single, no kids. I'm like, really though, is that really such a big thing? Because I know personal growth really, it really strangles you and it puts you into a different bracket there. When you're willing to grow, the world is gonna line up for you and put you through everything that you need to get to grow. And I'm kind of excited for fatherhood as well, because for me, a little bit of my backstory is that I don't know my father. I just know I have a Panamanian side, or his side is Panamanian. So I have a little Spanish heritage I don't fully know about. But I just remember those days where I was like, God, can you show me who my dad is, or can you tell my mom so she could tell you who my dad is? So I remember those times where, man, I wish I really had a father figure in my life, because at that time, not discredit my mom, but she did with the best that she knew. And I'm like, man, if she did her best, like I need someone that could help me at least do something better. And for me, it's been a lot of times it's just been me just really figuring it out. Like I didn't have too many father figures, so I had to become, in a sense, my own figure. And I know if someone that's like I've mentioned before, you're big in a family. Have you seen or have you encountered different friendships that you had where they didn't have fathers, and how do they parallel from your upbringing to probably their upbringing?
There's some folks who didn't grow up with their fathers that ended up better than folks with their father at home. Everybody's story is different, and I'm a firm believer that for the most part, we choose the childhood that we're brought into. And, you know, sometimes like things that aren't the most favorable manifest in our childhood so that we can be the most favorable when it's our time. I know for my family, there was a lot of domestic abuse trauma, a lot of anger trauma, a lot of alcoholism. And, you know, that does not take away from like the large majority that didn't fall under those categories.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that I fell into that family, because I'm also a firm believer that, let's say like souls exist in like an emotional purgatory until somebody down the line solves it. I feel like I've already succeeded in solving that issue.
Wow.
So like I said, it's a case by case basis, and the truth of the story is that you have to, once you really learn yourself, you have to go to the next level and ask yourself why and appreciate why things were. Maybe father wasn't around so that when it's your time for fatherhood, you can reinvent the slate. You know, for me, in my fatherhood, I've had to, forgiveness is a really big theme in my life. So I've had to forgive the shortcomings of my past, not emulate them, see how they can arise in emulation, control that, and also understand like the fatherhood from that my partner received and how that affects our dynamic.
Yeah.
So it's very complicated. I think the Western world really separated us from our roots, but I feel like our generation is getting us back on track.
Yeah, I could definitely believe that, because I know we could call them quote unquote Gen Z. I know a lot of younger people, and a lot of times even just seeing their perspectives about family, seeing their perspectives about even finances. They're up on finances more than I think maybe our generation or even the previous generation, because the world has definitely changed. My mom's adage of, oh, you go to school, get a good job, so on and so forth, doesn't really exist now, because the internet has been the great disruptor that's really changed a lot of things. And just that perspective of the internet and the old way versus the new way, I think it's a very big parallel. It's a very big way of transitioning, because a lot of people made a lot more money on the internet than they have getting the traditional 4, 6, 8 year degree, unless you're a doctor or something special. it's a little different story. But even in that, even to that extent, there's there's doctors on making millions on YouTube now. Even dentists, different kind of positions because they're adding value to a higher extent, and they're able to reach more people. So I want to add another question there, like outside of the music, how would your reach, or how would you want your reach to affect others, and how would you want to add value to other people?
Outside of my music,
Yeah.
it's so crazy because I see music touching everything, even down to the food. I just, for the most part, I think I shine really well in everybody I cross paths with, whether it's somebody at the store or somebody who's a high-ranking police officer or somebody who's very well respected in the music industry. I feel like I give nuggets of self-reflection and nuggets of wisdom without trying. I think that consciousness works as a ripple effect, and by solely being on my path and following the urge to be at the right places at the right time, like sometimes I get invited to events that I'm not gonna go, but my spirit is like, go. And usually I go and like there's gifts that I bring that I receive in return in affirmation. So I think my presence, bro, I feel like the return of Christ is imminent, and it's not just this one person that's gonna come down from the sky. It's a persona, it's an energetic resonance, it's something that we exude as creatives. And I think the more we're out in the field doing the work, it's not about exiting the matrix and staying out. It's about being in the matrix, touching people every day. And I think that's my impact, just being transparent and inspiring others to be themselves. Because you'll see me in public, and if I'm going through it, I'm not gonna, how are you doing today? I'll let you know. I'm going through it today, you know?
Yeah.
And I think transparency is key.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's an amazing point. Transparency, vulnerability. I believe if more people were transparent today, I would definitely believe this. I think the entire society would be different, because we a lot of times we hide behind, oh, I'm doing good, or things are great. But are they really great though? Like, are you like? Because I mean, there's times where, and I know for me, I used to say, oh, I'm doing good, doing great. I remember I was working one of these last jobs, and we would be on these 30-minute meetings, and they're talking about different things, and they can really see the scowl on my face. Like, Quinn, you're okay? Like, no, I'm not okay. And then people were taken aback by that. I'm like, because I will say normalize communicating your feelings. Normalize communication on top of that, because granted, this was in a corporate environment. I'm communicating my feelings. But I realized since I started doing that, it brings people together, or it either separates. I'm like, dang, Quinn is really someone he's really transparent. Dang, I respect that. Let me be transparent. Because I brought people together. Like I said, I also push people away. But the people I brought together, they've actually made changes in the company. I remember, I think maybe 2 weeks after that, I started getting like emails and phone calls. Like, whenever I'm hearing you're communicating this is that, let's have a conversation. Like, what can we fix? What can we do better? And I sat down with the CTO and the co-VP of IT infrastructure, and we had a conversation of what could be better within the company. And in most cases, you don't really hear that kind of story. A lot of times it gets dismissed, it gets pushed under the rug, and I honestly believe it takes someone who's really bold enough to stand up and willing to, I guess, because I could have got fired for saying that kind of stuff, but that's how I felt. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm doing okay. That's not how it's supposed to be. So can you talk about some times where you felt like you had to suppress, but it was so strong that it ended just pushing through?
Before that, I just want to say it's really cool that you were authentic at work.
Thank you.
And that's kind of like what I was talking about in my last response, where like, you know, being your authentic self, you don't have to sit down and formulate like a grandiose plan to change the world. Sometimes just being present is how you do that. It's a ripple of consciousness.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's up. Can you repeat the question?
Has there times where you've been suppressing an emotion that needs to come out, and then it was just so strong that it just had to burst out?
Yeah, I can think of two occasions. Most recently, I was an artist selling art at at a gallery in Las Olas, and you know, it's just like small little things I would notice. When you go to a school like the University of Florida, like racism becomes very apparent, so much so that you can like sniff it out on the macro level as soon as it's happening.
Wow.
So I got into the role and I realized like there would be certain people of color that were coming from FedEx that would do a job, and the person I was working for didn't want them to do it, but somebody who was of lighter complexion would come and they'd be like all gung-ho about it. Wow. And, you know, as things started to mature, it's like lots of microaggressions. Like sometimes when you're working for somebody, they'll like use you as an emotional dumping tool. And you got to sage that. You got to Palo Santo that away, because if not, you can accidentally put that out on the wrong person at the wrong time. Oof. So, you know, I resigned. I don't really resign from many things, but I had to challenge myself to do that. So I took the key. He told me I wasn't going to sell no art. I sold $20,000 worth of art that day.
Wow.
He told me I wasn't going to get no commission. So I was like, you know what? Today's the day. I gave him the key and I bounced. But I was suppressing that for like 2 weeks. Wow. Because of the economy and stuff, it was hard to bounce back into the next job. Boom, boom, boom. I'm a dad. It's a lot of pressure. But I made that decision, and, you know, he tried to like sell me into staying at the job because he would tell me I wasn't shit. You know, he'd be talking to me like, you ain't ish. I'd clock out at 6. I'd stay there 2 more hours for him to tell me that I'm not worthy.
Wow.
And I started to inherit that energy in my personal life. So I just bounced. But then even in my personal relationship, there'll be times where like microaggressions would manifest, and I would try to communicate. And sometimes communication isn't easy for everybody.
Yeah.
And what I realized is like as men, a lot of times we're put in the position where people can emotionally dump on us.
Yeah.
And when it's time to talk about the feelings, it's either like you're being too emotional, or people walk away because they just feel like emotionally you can take it. And we can't take it, but it builds up. That energy has to go somewhere.
Yeah. So
oftentimes it would come up in bursts. You know, I'm a very nice guy, but I think, you know, not the Jesus reference, even Jesus started flipping tables in the church, you know what I'm saying? And that's okay. I think that's a part of divine masculinity.
Yeah.
You know, like you have to show the world where you're at, where your heart is. It's like we can be a namaste all we want, but there is a warrior-like faction within us that has to live. It has to come out. And these days we're not fighting wolves and lions and all of that.
Yeah.
We're fighting ideas and concepts from the Matrix, you know, that are coming directly for our divinity. So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Damn, that's a great point. I like that. And I think it also even comes from understanding who you are and where you're coming from. And also on top of adding the vulnerability in there, because we're all attacked every single day. But how you really respond to the attacks is what really sets you apart.
That's what defines you as a man.
Yeah.
As a person.
Yeah, and it's really, I don't really follow too much mainstream news, but I know there's been an attack on masculinity. I'm getting not too deep into that because that doesn't really happen for me over here. But just noticing how it's happening and the family unit being disrupted and the nuclear families being disrupted. I think being a man now more than ever has been challenging. We've been attacked. We've been prosecuted over very menial things that, I mean, talk about the patriarchy, you know, all these different kind of things. Honestly, I just believe now it's just technically, I think it's a phase.
I feel like it's a plan that's been in the books. Like if you look at some of the Jim Crow writings and Lester Crowley and all that, like there's literature talking about how like for a century down the line, like their goal to separate the melanated family is going to become apparent in like separated households. So on TikTok right now, on Instagram, I'm always seeing like moms and their kids and their fathers are home, right? But on the flip side, with our brown sisters, I see a lot of single moms on Instagram talking about, I got this, I can do this, it's all me, individualism. There's a lot of, I don't need him.
Yeah.
I don't need him. But like, in all actuality, that's the opposite of human evolution.
Exactly.
That's the opposite of human evolution. Like, especially in these days where they're grooming the youth to obscure masculinity and only embrace femininity. You know, it's creating problems that's going to affect how we repopulate the earth. Like, we need both the man and the woman in the household.
Yeah, the unity.
You know, there's certain things, there's certain attributes that the man can teach that the woman can, but the man is more skilled at doing so. It's natural for him, and vice versa. You know, so my music also like exists to bring an importance. Like, I like boasting about fatherhood. Like in 222 Lit. Ooh, she's loving all up on the bro, yeah. Put the seed in the embryo, yeah. Then I go and have a clone, yeah. I didn't have a kid at the time. Yeah. But it was like a manifestation, you know? Instead of talking about like, here's this European model right here at the club, drop a band on that table at the club, take that one home after the club. I was like, I'm going to talk about something real. Like, I think procreation is beautiful.
Yeah. And that's I like that. I like how you brought that. You kind of just put that all together. And a lot of music doesn't talk about the family. It doesn't talk about procreation. Life is beautiful. Life is amazing. I remember when I first started photography, and I started to go outside, like literally go outside, start looking outside, and like the world is really beautiful. Like if you go look at some plants, you go some flowers, you see bees, little bugs, little insects. Like all those things are so beautiful and intricate. I remember this is one of my favorite photos. I had a zoom shot of a photo. A zoom shot of a spider. I saw the web. I saw the little eyes on the spider. I saw his hairs. I saw the pattern on his back. And like, how are people like really not thinking like, yo, the world is such a beautiful place. Like you go outside, it's a whole new world outside. And I know some people that they don't like to travel or they haven't traveled, but even just going down your street corner, just looking at something, even like the smallest plant, it can really set you apart and just think like, wow, I never saw this before in my entire life, but this is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Can you talk about, because I know you travel to different places. I want to talk about the gem show. I know you also went to the gem show and gotten a lot of cool things, but just being in that space, like how's the energy? How's the people you met? Like kind of break that down a little bit more.
It was interesting. Outside of the homies we had coming from the continent of Africa to sell their gemstones there, we were the only black people out there.
Wow.
Yeah, man. A lot of our people don't know about the Gem and Mineral Store. We go to all these stores that are in our local neighborhoods, and we're spending like top dollar on crystals and gems, where we can just fly out to a gem show that's happening all the time, and buy in bulk. One of the great teachers, Dr. Roz Ben, talks about it very nicely. Is like the Gem and Minerals show is like the stock market, except you have tangible goods as soon as you leave. Ooh. Because if I bought a piece of moldavite in 2012, that $40 piece is now 2012. That $40 piece is probably a good $800 now. So if I brought an entire lot of that moldavite, I have a very profitable business. Now you take that same moldavite and you pay somebody to cut it up, make it look like a gem. See, even more expensive piece. Now you take that cut gem, you cast it into some rose gold, some platinum, heck, even some brass and copper, and now like you've expanded the profit on this gem from the earth, Wow. And there's ethical ways of mining crystals and there's unethical ways of mining crystals. So when you go into the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show, you're meeting and you're shaking hands with a lot of different folks who are in the business for a lot of different reasons, right? So you have a large vendor selling Larimar, and they're directly from Dominican Republic. That's where you find Larimar at. You have somebody who's from the Congo who brings a whole bunch of malachite, because in that region, it's an abundance over there. Mm-hmm. You have somebody from South Africa bringing in prehnite, Prehnite, Mark my words, that is going to be a very valuable crystal in the next decade, and they're so on. A lot of people don't know about that crystal. It's a beautiful green crystal that the vibration it gives off is supposed to assist you in dealing with your heart trauma. Wow. Supposed to assist you in protecting you when you're in your astral realm. And all these things are like, a lot of people on the internet right now using these terms, but they're very real. Like I got this earring in my ear, phenakite can barely find Fennekai at the Gem and Mineral Show. That's how rare it is.
Wow.
You take this piece, and it's such a superconductor. It's like 1,000 quarts in one small piece. Put it through a piece of ice, and it'll melt right through the ice, and then conduct the coldness of the ice and keep it at 0 point frozen. So it's pretty cool.
Whoa.
So the Gem and Mineral Show is tight. I would go there. I would definitely go there with some money saved up, and before you purchase your first few items, shop around, walk around. It'll probably take you 2 to 3 days to like see everything before you decide on what you want to purchase. But it's a great networking place. You're meeting people from around the world. People coming in from Egypt, bringing in high quality replicas of their artifacts and stuff of that nature. Only downside of Tucson, Arizona, is that there's not a abundance of tasty food. I'm a big food guy. I like to eat good when I'm out. But there's a spot called Bale Burger, Beaut Burger, and they have the best vegan burgers I've had, man. They make their biscuits in-house.
Wow.
They make their patties in-house. Their fries are delicious. They got a breaded cauliflower, buffalo cauliflower. Oh, my goodness. And they got it's in a desert, so the theme of drinks match as well. They have this prickly pear lemonade. That thing bussin'. So Tucson is a vibe, man. You go there for the Crystal Gem show. Have some weeks outside of that so you can. Oh, another thing. You go there before you buy anything. Put your feet on the land. Dr. Razben also taught us that, like, you're taking all these crystals from inside the earth. Pay your respects and go hiking in nature. Taking that good air, that good prana, and then go into the vortex of commerce instead of just being capitalistic, buying and dipping. After Tucson, make sure you have 2 or 3 days worth of free time. Go to Sedona, Arizona. A lot of vortexes there. There's a spot called Chocola Tree, one of the best vegan restaurants I've been to in the world. And Sedona is just very cleansing. It's weird. Make sure you go with somebody because you might end up missing. But it's a fire place to be.
What you be end up missing? It's so cool you might want to stay there or something?
No, man. It's just weird. I feel alien presence in Sedona.
Oh.
Like reptile presence. And even like the indigenous like art that's still in the area talk of that presence.
Wow.
So there's still a lot of indigenous people who live in those regions. It's an interesting place.
Because when I went to Arizona, I believe we were, in the capital, because I went mountain biking there. Such beautiful scenery. Saw the little cacti and cactus on the side. Saw 100, 3, 4-year-old cactus because they have little limbs. They do all this. Yeah, each limb is like an extra 100 years on that joint. So those things have been there for a long, long time, full of water. Have you saw some little bunnies, or I'm not sure what they call the creatures on there, but just beautiful wildlife. And it's hard to believe that place is in America because, you go to different parts of America, you see lush greenery, but being in the desert, I believe, like you said, put your feet in the dirt, the sand, and the energy is completely different over there. I think the only downside for me was when it was late at night, it was blowing like 110 degrees. It was blowing some 20, 30 mile an hour winds. Well, probably a little too high. Maybe 10, 11 mile an hour winds. I felt like it was a toaster out there, bro.
At night?
Yeah.
Every time I go to Tucson, bro, it's like a toaster in the daytime. And then as soon as the sun goes down, it's cold. It's cold. So when I go out in the day, I have like a normal t-shirt on and like I got 2 jackets wrapped around my waist.
Wow.
Because as soon as that sun dropped, this is in February when I go. Maybe it was a different time of the year. I got to take those jackets off and put them on because even then it's still cold.
Wow. Yeah, I think I went during the summertime, so it was a little bit different. It was pretty hot, 110 degrees at night, bro.
Yeah, Arizona's tight. I'm going to record one of the world's favorite albums in Arizona. I'm gonna invite a lot of my creative homies. We're gonna stay there. I'm gonna book it out for like a good 1 to 3 months, and we're just gonna vibe out, and make some great music. And then eventually, I'm gonna do a festival.
Wow.
Called Manifest, like a Manifest festival.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna be something you could bring kids to, elders to. It's going to be educational as well. And the plan is to have it at very like high vibrational spaces, like places with vortexes in them. So that's going to come into fruition. So there's a plan, and I'm grateful. Like I used to want everything to come at once in my super early 20s, but then I'm starting to realize that there's fundamental things that I'm learning in my adulthood that are going to set me up to truly be a leader in the community, the right leader.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about fame and money anymore. It's about prosperity, generational wealth, and that wealth doesn't only live in finances. Finances is a part of it, but it's like, what fruits are you leaving for the generations to come that are going to edify more than their pockets?
Yeah, I love that point. And I was like I mentioned before, you're all going back to the family. The family is the biggest, the conduct that like your message is all around supporting. And even to that extent, like I've heard of different stories of different families where the next in kin, they lose all the money because it wasn't respected, or the family didn't spend enough time with the next of kin, the next generation to implore them, like, hey, for us to keep this going, I'm going to teach you a set of skills and these mindset perspectives so that you could keep our family business going. So when you have kids, then they could take over, and then so on and so forth. I believe generational wealth has been taking an uptake probably over the past couple of years, because I started to hear it every now and then, but now it's more resounding in the different spaces that I'm in. And I believe generational wealth is very important because you're passing down so much knowledge, information, and just perspective and mindsets to the next generation that even their families may not have the same opportunity that you may have. And I see it for me because for my brother is he's 10 years younger than me, and I'm firstborn here in America, so I'm the first one here for our family. And I wouldn't say it put a lot of pressure on me, but as I've gotten older, I started to realize, like, well, I want to be the first millionaire in my family. I want to be the first person to unify our family. I want to be the first person to get my family to travel overseas. Because some of my family, they have passports, some don't. But I want me to get them at least a visa so they can come over here, come see what it looks like. Hopefully they don't stay because life is completely different. And I'm not sure they'll be up for that. And plus, they'll be like in their 60s or 70s by then. So I just wanted to come visit. But just to go back to my brother, my mom doesn't have the teaching information I have. So for me, I was like, well, I could be the only one that's going to help him because his father's also in Canada. So he has a bit of distance everywhere. I'm the only local person to actually give him any help. So I have my brother set up his credit, set up his bank account, help him with jobs, help him get his driver license, help him get a car. Just resounding help to order and get him to like a good part where he is today. And I think that's really interesting to see because I know sometimes when it comes to family unit, a lot of times there's a lot of separation. Like, oh, I don't like you, I'm not going to help you. Or we've been enemies for all this time. Like a lot of people holding grudges within the family. And I know you talked a little bit about that, about there's been abuse there's been alcoholism. That's a lot of separation because a lot of times they take that external thing to talk to themselves instead of actually going and talking, hey, I'm having a problem here. Would you be a sounding ear to help me get through this? And sometimes it's hard to do because that's a big vulnerability at play. But if you're willing to do that and make that happen, I think it's going to really set the relationship apart and make it a lot different and build a unit as a family, make it a lot stronger. So can you talk about some other examples where you noticed that family has been an anchor for you in certain areas of your life?
Like fatherhood family or just family?
Family in general, yeah.
Family in general has been awesome. I come from a huge family. I don't really interact much with my Dominican side because they're still overseas. Mm-hmm. And I've been so focused on the grind here in the States that I haven't made time to go visit them.
Wow.
But my Haitian family is like it's very rich down here. Like we do yeah, man. It's just I can't put into words as to how big yet connected we are. And I feel like it's hard to put into the words because the foundation is unseen. It's felt. It's a soulful. It's a blood-born bond, and that's something that we got passed down generationally.
Wow.
One of our cousins in our lineage is Tucson, Lovato.
Wow.
So I think there's a lot of pride in where we come from. We're still Tippenhauers in Haiti doing politics. But our family's like got Jeannie Thons here, Tippenhauers, like a lot of different. Actually, yeah, like one of my cousins, her cousin is Alan Cave, like one of the most famous compa musicians.
Wow.
So it's pride. I think growing up in the church environment, I was told that I had to humble myself. But now that I'm adulting and I'm like rebirthing my inner child, I'm starting to understand that pride is so important. Because it's like all those lashes on the back with the lip from Master that like takes the pride away from the body. You know? So it's the pride within the body that keeps you tethered to your purpose. And I think the more you know about your family and your family lineage, I'm not talking spit into a tube and take a prick of blood and send it to those folk over at Ancestral, take your DNA, make cloned companies. I'm talking about like really asking questions for those that are still here, doing your own research on the internet and figuring out where you come from.
Yeah.
Because that pride in itself will tether you to your purpose. Because like we're just our ancestors I'm like the iPhone 17 of my family. You know? And everything that made the iPhone 1 great in the 1600s, I have that and so much more. So I'm supposed to be a predecessor keeping it going. So understanding that is really self-affirming.
Wow.
It's self-directing as well. I have ancestors in the kitchen with me when I cook. They teach me how to make cultural dishes I was never taught how to make. But they put the smells in my system. They say, put this in here, put it in there, and by the time I'm done cooking, I'm like, whoa. This tastes like that thing that person who passed away a few years made that I never learned how to make, and I was afraid I would never get to taste it this way again.
Wow.
But here it is.
You know? Wow, that's amazing. Damn. That's a lot. 'Cause sometimes I hear people talk about ancestry and talk about the past. And for me, like, I didn't really think too much into that when I was younger, but as I've grown older, and I'm just picking up different synchronicities and just different mindsets over time. Like, as much as I've delved into personal growth, there's something that's just kind of, as I've evolved, it's popped in there. Like, unknown knowledge just popped in. I'm like, wait, I never read about that. How do I know about this? And just learning and just believing the ancestors are like, hey, Queen, we're going to do this now. I don't want to do it, but we need you to.
Now's the time.
We need you to do this in order to impact who you have to impact, to reach who you have to reach. Because sometimes it's so strange to hear people just give you compliments about, oh, you're such a nice person, or you're so helpful. And I remember when I wasn't so nice and I wasn't so helpful. But on my journey of growth, there's times where I've had those, you hear the voices in the back of your mind, or you hear the voices are moving, like, oh, we need to do this. Or I remember when you did that, but I need you to do it this way.
You got to answer the call. I agree.
And even to add on to that is like, wow, like, there's a good friend of mine. I call her Domo Bands. She runs she's a domo. I'm sorry, she's a doula. She's a doula, and she has a store in Miami Gardens. And I remember all she talks about is like my ancestors. And sometimes I'm like, what do you mean by that? And it's like, oh, my ancestors are telling me this is what I have to do. This is how I'm going to reach the people I need to reach. I remember before she got the store, she was talking to me, I'm going to get this store, and it's going to be the hub. I'm going to do everything here. And just seeing how that's played out over time, it's so inspiring to see that someone who just tapped in, keyword get tapped in, being tapped into your lineage, being tapped into your ancestors, it's such a powerful, I'll say it's a cheat code. Because once you have that lineage behind you, they're on your shoulder, like, all right, let's go. You're feeling the taps. Like, I remember my tap to do the podcast was I was just in the coop, I was listening to some jams, and I get the tap on my shoulder, we need you to start a podcast. I'm like, I don't even listen to podcasts. What am I talking about? And then over time, I'm starting to pick up different topics, and then just talking from the heart. And the lineage is speaking through me to teach others and the new generation, so that they can also like, wow, I heard him talk about that, but no one's ever talked about my family. That's I think that's a really cool way of really seeing lineage reach out and connect to others.
Somebody's gonna be watching this and like, I should listen to that voice. That's not a bad voice. That's not me. That's my ancestors. I got to start this. Somebody's gonna get inspired by that.
Yeah, and it's definitely true. Because a lot of times, I know sometimes there's people who are scared that they hear a voice like, "Oh, what's going on?" But it's actually like it's almost like we call it the guardian angel, but a lot of times it's actually a lady just telling you to tighten up. It's telling you like, "Hey, I know you're going on this path. I'm gonna need you not to go that way." There's a friend of mine. We were on the phone yesterday, and she did something really interesting I want to talk about too. Just spread that message on. So my friend Danelli, she's a new product designer, and she was actually reached out to and asked if she could speak at a juvenile center for young women, and she was getting up there talking about her story. And I found it really impactful that she's a woman of color, but she's Dominican as well, and she's a woman of color. Just her telling her story to this big crowd of women, and now they all want to become entrepreneurs. They all want to be designers. Like she did a little workshop for them to design like a product, and just hearing how she's able to resonate a message to the youth, and just show them, hey, you don't have to be causing trouble. You can be something that adds value. I thought that was very powerful. Because a lot of times we don't hear those stories. We don't hear people that it goes from an adult's value, like, oh, we hear this person, doing A, B, and C, and then, oh, they call this dissonance and all this kind of stuff. We hear about trouble. We don't hear about actual growth representation. So what are some things that you're currently doing today that's going to cause a disruption in the future?
I know for a fact my food is gonna. I think everything I touch is disruptive. I remember being in high school and one of the smartest kids in the class, like somebody asked him, was like, "Yo, what's wrong with you?" It's like, every day I just think about this, and somebody has to know. Somebody has to know what? Somebody has to stop him. Somebody has to kill Daniels, because that's my government name, because he's a menace to society. He's not good for the society. And I took it lightly as a kid, but I am a disruptor. Everywhere I walk in, I leave an impact. So in the food industry, I'm going to use my music as a financial funnel, as a tool. The music isn't what makes you money. It's the passport of the music that grants you that wealth and prosperity. So I'm going to use that income from the food, not the food, the music, to funnel into a semi-fast food vegan chain. I'm also going to open up a kava eatery in Atlanta, Georgia. And I want to revolutionize the access people have to food. Because right now, if like the only fast food you have, like you have 6 kids, you're a single mom or a single dad, or like, you just don't have time to cook that night, but you want your kids to have a satisfying meal. They're asking for McDonald's. They don't know any better. It's better to give them that than to cook some beans on the stove and some ramen. Like, that's their option. But I think if there could be something non-soy based for them to consume that's within the same price range, it's going to slowly get people away from McDonald's and Burger King to the point where McDonald's and Burger King, they're going to have to like call a meeting like, hey guys, we're losing our income because we have this competitor over here that we can't touch because they're in a high place, and if we touch him, they're going to know that we're the ones that hurt them, just like they know that the government's the person who got the Cash App guy. So we have to be very strategic. We have to beat them at their own game. We have to bring vegan food into the mix. And boom. Once you have people leading the game, like Cash App, like we're about to have Fed now, because Cash App, it filled the pocket of financial exchange that the Fed didn't touch yet.
Yeah.
So with fast food, if you have fast food that's nutritious as well as like affordable, and it's putting economy back into the community, because the company in itself is paying local farmers for the agriculture to sustain itself, then these people are going to have to redo what they have going on.
Yeah.
Because taking the business out in itself isn't going to solve the issue. Got to play the game. Same thing with the music. There's so many great musicians out here doing great things, putting out the right message, that eventually these new kids, they keep manifesting into commercial deals. Their music isn't going to hold any sustenance to the commercial listener.
Yeah.
The commercial listener is going to treat that like how they used to treat SoundCloud back in the day.
Oh.
People are going to have to go out of their way to find the right music. They're going to have to start going on social media and being tapped into the right algorithm to figure out the right music. That's already happening.
Yeah.
So disrupting. I think just to answer the question concisely, be unapologetically you. Be enlightened and empowered by your vision and your channel, and let that creation do the work for you. And everything will fall into place. Actually, everything will fall out of place so that you have your place.
Let me get that reverb one more time.
Everything?
The last part.
Oh, not the last 30 minutes. All right. I got you. Be unapologetically you. Be empowered by the enlightenment that you have and continue channeling that into your works. Because the more you put out your creation, the more things will not fall into place, but actually fall out of place so that there's a space for your level and your vibration of creation.
That was really good right there, man. I will say I can 100% agree. That's what happened to me. My whole life was destabilized, and for me to align with the growth I had to achieve, I had to get destabilized first. I had to shake away a few things. And then over the years, it's been everything started to come up. So I can not talk about style on the show because it is called Style Versus. So the versus part, we're going to talk about your perspective and mindset behind the closet, what kind of clothes you wear. So let's just break down what is Nad Pitt style. How did that formulate?
Well, you got to think about Nad Pitt. Nad Pitt is is my name cut in half backwards. It just came to me. But if you think about Nad Pitt, it sounds like Brad Pitt. And I'm starting to understand that Nad Pitt just channels a whole bunch of different versions of himself at different times, depending on how the spirit works with him. So how Nad Pitt dresses is, there's a bit of consistency there. The consistency is that it's always fresh, you know what I'm saying? Even when he's not trying, it's always fresh. And I like to have a piece of culture with what I'm wearing. That's my own. But it just depends. I get a lot of my clothes from the aftermarket, so thrift and stuff like that, because I feel like right now the clothes you can buy off the shelves are either overpriced, not for the value, or they're too similar to what they're trying to put out. There's no individuality there. There's nothing that my character feels comfortable in. So, this outfit, these pieces, these cartas go for 120 minimum at the carta stores, right? Carta is it's a long piece of clothing that you wear ceremonially in celebration or even in your day to day. But I went to a Goodwill on 8th Street, Calle Ocho in Miami. There's a Banksy painting right outside of it. They had to put this armored glass in front of it so nobody breaks down the wall and takes it. And I went shopping. I found some Yves Saint Laurent trousers that flare up at the bottom. They were fresh. I found a whole bunch of other stuff. But after I was done, I went back in. Something told me to go into the ladies section, and I did. And I found 4 curtas. Wow. They didn't know that curtas were for men, so they just put it in the girls section. All of them were $10 a piece. Wow. So that would have been a $800, $700 cop. I just got it for $40. And I like wearing curtas because for me it's very regal. Sometimes I dress up to protect my spirit. Sometimes I dress up to reflect my spirit. Sometimes I dress up to project my spirit. So my ori, my head, my consciousness, my higher self, once I clear my thoughts and I can envision very clearly the day, it tells me what type of day it's going to be. Is this a day where I have to contain my energy, mimic an energy, in retrospect to what I have going on, or to put my energy out? So my fits oftentimes replicate that. I don't think I've showed the world my swag yet, even though I get compliments everywhere I go for what I got going on, whether it's the crystal drip, shout out Soul 7, you know what I'm saying, SOL, SVN, that's my baby mama goddess's business, you know what I'm saying, we be crystal rapping in that mug. But just clothes is cool, man. Wear what you feel like wearing, and make sure it fits your body. Make sure it's not too tight, because you don't want to constrain yourself. Make sure it's not, it's loose enough for you. Think about the type of material you're wearing. Are you wearing 100% silk? Are you wearing polyester? Are you wearing cotton? What does that mean for your vibration? Do the research. You know, what does your color say? What are you manifesting? You know, I've been wearing a lot of pink lately. It's a very nice color for me this recently. But, you know, I think next season I'm going to be rocking green, like a lime green. So we'll see.
That's a very diverse breakdown of style. I never heard anyone talk about it like that, especially when it comes to energetic and being energetically, and yeah, just the energetic layer. Normally
How you do it?
normally how I piece a fit together is it's on a scale. For me, it's either am I gonna be fresh or am I gonna be clean today? So clean is more, I'm put together, still look nice, but fresh is like I'm gonna be layered up. I'm gonna have specific shoes on. I'm gonna have all my accessories dialed in. So for me, it's just I remember I heard a song, and the guy had said he's the cleanest man in the room. So unequivocally, that's kind of my goal at most times, to be the cleanest man in the room. Not as a cocky thing, but I believe I believe presence and how you present yourself are two key integral things that allow you to have very nice relationships. Because I think the first time I met Nad, he was dressed really, very nice. I'm like, yo, who is this guy? And then from that point forward, we connected and we've been have a good relationship ever since. And I can honestly say Nad is one of the strongest men that I know from his battles and his victories, and just being a consistent man here in the presence it's very regal to see, and it's very nice to see.
Thank you.
Of course, and just to see that kind of clarity as a man as well, because we all have different perspective of what a man is, but just seeing true loyalty, kindness, openness, and just a lot of genuine love. That's rare coming from a man, and just even the presentation of how he dresses as well. I mean, it shows that regality, it shows the culture, it shows the richness, and like I said, that's something you don't really see much these days. A lot of times we see cookie cutter things, so we see guys wear the same pants, same shoes, same haircuts. Like I see the same guy on Instagram and Twitter, sometimes TikTok all the time. There's a lack of diversity. I would say especially for how Nad is, Nad is diversity. You could check out the vest right here. You can talk about what's the name of the.
This is called a curta.
The curta.
You know, so if the camera zoomed in, you see like all these it looks like Swarovski onyx crystals on this. So it be bling blinging. You know what I'm saying? This vest right here is a tactical vest because you never know what you got to keep on. You can need some bullets, need some crystals. I got that. This right here is a 1 of 1 Soul 7 bicep bangle. You know what I'm saying? I saw my homie out in LA, Free Soul. He had one of the copper cuffs on his tactical vest. I'm like, that's fresh. You know what I'm saying? I usually got my yin rings, but today I wanted to let the fingers be free. You feel me? Got my meteorite on me. You know what I'm saying? It's not about what you can see. It's about how you feel. Meteorite from Australia. Keep my cosmic awareness on fleek. You know what I'm saying? I got this thing right here made out of mud cloth. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
From the motherland. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to show you how long this curta is. It's like a little dress. This thing fresh, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Tell them about your fit, bro, because you got this little chain thing that I know you made up. Can I smoke my Blue Lotus vape?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Right, cool.
So for like I said, for me, I'm a bit. I keep my eyes out for a lot of cool pieces. So I'm gonna do a quick scan as well. Make sure I'm knocking none over. So we got a houndstooth, massive lapel right here, and also zips down.
Fresh.
Also my custom necklace. Custom necklace right there, and opens up. If I could get the lapel on the camera right here, massive lapels. But I like the style of the lapel because it's outrageous. But when you zip it together,
it's like a moto jacket.
Yeah, clean, very nice and concise. We can't get on the feet right now. We're gonna work on that for the next episode. Get the whole detail in there.
Gotta see us in the flesh to see the feet. No,
definitely that as well. Let's go ahead and plug it in. That can they reach you? How can they see you, bro?
Well, if you close your eyes and I'm kidding. So my name is spelled Nadpitt. Nadpitt. Yeah. Nad Pitt. You can find him on IG on the top of the tick. In your mind is where I'll be. You can stream me for 0.003 cents on the Spotify title YouTube thing. Wow. Yeah, so you can find me on all streaming platforms as Nad Pitt. I just recently released an album called The Way, the Truth, the Light. 9 records deep. Beautiful, beautiful artists on it. Thank you to all the artists and producers that helped me with that project. There's much more coming out. And yeah, I use my social media platform as a digital journal. So if you like what I have expressed, what we have expressed, you can catch me there. And also, shameless plug, if you want some crystal drip, at sol.svn or solsvn.com.
And if y'all don't know, we got some Soul 7 in the middle right here. We got some yin rings right here. We got an exclusive necklace right here from Nad Pitt.
Yeah, it's crystals from Zambia. It's from a woman-owned amethyst mine.
Wow.
Very rare amethyst. So, yeah.
So on that note, my name is Quinn. We got Nad Pitt right here. Follow me on IG _double_style_double_. I got something coming in the wings for our podcast page, so stay tuned for that. Peace out. You got anything to close on that?
No, I'm not going to freestyle.
We're going to say that for another one. Peace and love, everybody.
We'll see you again.
Peace.